Before the Great Chicago Fire, before the wildfire disasters of modern times, there was another fire in America. A fire so powerful, so deadly, and so overwhelming that it erased entire towns and left more than 2,000 people dead in a single night. Yet most people have never heard of it. This is the forgotten story of the Peshtigo Firestorm of 1871, the deadliest fire in American history. A tragedy so violent that survivors said, the sky didn't just glow, it burned. Tonight we return to that night, when the wind turned into a weapon and the world became fire.
Chapter 1: The Perfect Storm. The year was 1871. America was rebuilding after the Civil War. Industries were booming, railroads expanding, and lumber was the heart of the Midwest economy. Peshtigo, Wisconsin sat deep inside a rich forest, a fast-growing town full of lumber workers, families, and European immigrants seeking a new life. But that year, the weather changed. From spring to fall, almost no rain fell. The soil cracked, streams dried up, and the forests, filled with sawdust, tree bark, and leftover lumber scraps, became a massive pile of tinder. Small fires burned everywhere, farmers clearing land, logging companies burning waste, sparks flying from trains. People noticed the danger, but they were used to smoke. They never imagined what was building above them. Chapter 2: The Day Before, 06:00 to 10:00. On October 7th, the day before the disaster, the sky was a strange yellow color. The air was thick and hard to breathe. Workers in the logging camps complained that the sun looked like a red coin behind fog. Farmers said the nights felt too warm, even though it was October. A pastor in Peshtigo wrote, "The air felt wrong, as if the world was holding its breath. Animals behaved strangely. Horses refused to go into barns. Dogs barked at nothing, and birds flew away from town en masse. No one understood why. The reason was simple. A huge cold front was racing toward Wisconsin, and when it hit the superheated bone-dry forests, everything would ignite." Chapter 3: The Wind Arrives, 10:30 to 13:30. Wind begins to howl in the background. On October 8th, around 8 p.m., the temperature rose suddenly. A warm gust of wind hit the town, then a stronger one. Windows rattled, lamps flickered. A fisherman on the Peshtigo River later said, "The wind came from everywhere at once." It wasn't a normal wind. It grew stronger by the minute, until it became a force like a hurricane. People stepped outside their homes, looking toward the forest, and saw the night sky glowing orange. Chapter 4: The Firestorm begins, 13:30 to 18:00. Just before 9 p.m., the fire appeared, not as a slow-burning line of flames, but as a towering wall of fire, hundreds of feet high, rolling forward at incredible speed. This wasn't a wildfire. It was a firestorm. A firestorm happens when the heat becomes so intense that it pulls in air from all directions, creating a tornado-like vortex of flame. Witnesses reported trees exploded into ash, buildings caught fire without being touched, horses burst into flames from heat alone, iron tools glowed red hot, the river began to steam. The fire didn't move like something natural. It moved like something alive. A logger who survived described it as, a beast of fire running on the wind. The sky roared like thunder. People couldn't hear their own screams. Chapter 5. Run for your life. 18:00 to 22:00. Panic swept the town. Mothers clutched their children. Workers abandoned their tools. Families ran blindly through streets of flame. Some tried to save their homes by throwing water. But the heat was so intense, the water evaporated before it hit the wood. Others ran for their wagons, but horses, terrified, broke free and galloped into the flames. People began running toward the Peshtigo River, the only possible refuge. But getting there was almost impossible. Flaming debris rained from the sky. The wind howled like a tornado. Smoke choked the air so badly that people crawled on the ground just to breathe. Those who fell behind never got back up. Chapter 6. The River of Survival. 22:00 to 26:00. When the first survivors reached the river, they jumped in immediately. The water was cold, but the air above it was unbearably hot. Men, women, and children clung to logs, to each other, to anything that floated. Some stayed underwater for long moments, coming up only to breathe before diving again to escape the heat. But the firestorm was so powerful that even the river wasn't safe. The surface of the water grew hot enough to burn skin. People had to keep their faces low, pressing them against the water to stay alive. One woman later said, "I prayed for the river to swallow me. Anything was better than the fire above." Parents held children under their arms. Elderly survivors clung to floating boards. Whole families cried together in the darkness as the fire raged around them. For 5 hours, the flames consumed the town. Chapter 7. Dawn of Ashes. By sunrise, the fire had moved on. Silence hung over the land. Where a town once stood, there was nothing. No stores, no schools, no churches, only blackened earth and smoldering ruins. Survivors crawled out of the river, shaking, burned, and exhausted. Some searched for loved ones. Others wandered in shock. A pastor wrote, "I saw no houses, no barns, only chimneys, like gravestones for a town." Official counts later confirmed the unimaginable. Over 2,000 people killed. Entire neighborhoods vanished. Bodies turned to ash in seconds. Children found holding hands. The fire so hot that glass melted and metal fused. Yet the world barely noticed. On the same night, the Great Chicago Fire destroyed parts of Chicago and stole the headlines. Peshtigo's tragedy disappeared from memory. Final chapter, a forgotten tragedy. Today, Peshtigo is rebuilt. A small museum stands where the town burned. A cemetery holds the remains of the unknown, victims burned beyond recognition. But the story lives on, a reminder that nature, when pushed to its limit, becomes unstoppable, and that the greatest disasters are not the ones we remember. This was the night the sky caught fire and the world turned to flame. The Peshtigo Firestorm of 1871, America's deadliest fire and its most forgotten.